UC Merced. The campus appears to be very diverse. But what does that mean exactly? Do the students here feel it is diverse? We can all agree that the other UC campuses have much less diversity than ours. But just how much? UC Berkeley has a majority of Asian students and the least amount of African American students at 1 to 2%. Cal State Long Beach is mostly Hispanic and has African Americans at 13%. UCLA is roughly 35% Asian, 27% white, 18% Hispanic, and only 3% African American. So how does UC Merced compare? Out of the 6,195 students, 43% of those identify themselves as Hispanic, 26% identify as Asian, 14% is white, and only 6% is African American. If more than 2.1 million African Americans live in California, why are we seeing this disparity in numbers? Part of the contributing factors are the geographical conditions and socioeconomic states of each county represented. Next, there is a disconnection between how people are being represented within the system. It's not that people are not going to school anymore, it's just they're not going to school here. For many students, it is more advantageous to take a community college route rather than the traditional 4-year system.
Diversity to me, it depends on like the situation in which it's being used. It just pretty much means like a variety, a whole bunch of different types of different people and personalities and backgrounds.
Different cultures, different people from different walks of life, people that have been through different things. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean like you have to have every single race equal to me, even though that would be the ideal. But you know, as we are just a starting university, you know, you can't really get that. But diversity just means like having a little bit of everything.
Like, they're pretty much used interchangeably nowadays, but I feel like ethnicity is more of like your background and race is more of what you associate yourself with.
And here on campus, like, I feel we're very diverse culture-wise. Like, I feel there's a lot of different cultures, and you can see that, like, just talking to people, like, oh, like, I'm Ethiopian and Eritrean, you'll be like, I can meet other Ethiopians, I've met other Africans, I've met different types of Asians I've never seen at different cultures, different types of, like, islanders, like, you see a lot of that kind of diversity, but you do see some groups are not as represented as other groups, you know? So, like, for me, like, Africans, African Americans, like, we all go in the same category because we're all one to me. So, even with all of us together, there's not that many of us here at UC Merced. Even though a lot of people think, yeah, compared to other universities, we have a lot more black representation. But that's only because we're so small, like, but if you really think about it, out of like, what, the almost 6,000 kids that go here, there's only like 300 of us from the last time I saw.
Yeah, I would definitely say that UC Merced is a lot more diverse than places I've been before. Like, I'm from NorCal, and I live in Fremont, which is in kind of like the Silicon Valley of NorCal. But being from there, it's a very high Asian population. I actually looked up the statistics the other day for a paper I'm writing, and white's actually the minority there. It's about 25% of the population. So I would say, you know, coming here, there's definitely a lot more diversity in the different types of ethnicities of people you see.
I live in a community where it's mixed. It's definitely like mixed. I went to school like that, and now that I go to UC Merced, it's also like that. So to me, it's not something that stands out as like, oh my gosh, UC Merced have diversity in comparison to other UCs, because I kind of just expect that across other UCs. Right. So when we have things like, when we have conferences at other UCs for Black rights or for other cultures, sometimes it doesn't make sense to me because I see it as like, well, I feel like everyone's getting along. What's wrong with Why do we need to have a conference on this table? We have 3 different cultures and race.
Exactly.
But I don't really, that's not something that, I don't see it, like, that's not something that I'm continuously thinking about. Because, and I think that's because, part of that is because I grow up in that environment. So I don't see it as like, oh, okay, I'm just Asian girl, he's just white. You know, and I just think of it as like, oh, okay, we're just all people.
So I would definitely say that the clubs and organizations, the types of clubs and organizations on campus are very diverse. You can get anything from like outdoor activities, athletic activities, like social organizations like Greek life, fraternities and sororities, educational things. Like honestly, there's so many different types of clubs and organizations on our campus. But I would say personally from being in Greek life, that the Greek life itself is not as diverse as the rest of the campus. There's definitely more diversity than, you know, the stereotypical like all white kind of a, you know, Greek organization. But I would definitely say it's not as diverse as the rest of the campus.
I think the reason we lack in like black fraternities, black sororities and stuff is because like there's not enough motivation, there's not enough participation and coming together, because we make all these little divisions, you know. My thing is, I when I was in high school, I used to hate the whole ASU BSU thing, because it was like, why are we like, we make all these separations, like why not come together so we can have one giant force? And then when I came here, I didn't want to get involved in that because it was like, oh, we're separating again. But like now that I think about it, it's not that we're separating like, oh, you're African, you have to be in ASU, or you're black, you have to be in BSU. It's more of, this is our culture, we want to teach you about different African culture that blacks wouldn't know. And black culture, you know, most people think I wouldn't know a lot about black culture because I'm so like Ethiopian intertwined, but I know a lot about black culture and I love black culture, and I would love to get more involved with BSU as well. So I guess we just need to figure out ways so that we come together and bring all of our different walks of life together and build a stronger black community in UC Merced.
I can't quote on the numbers, but I can definitely say that UC Merced have a lot higher number in the sense that we're really diverse in different races. Instead of just maybe Asian, there's a lot more African Americans, Mexicans or Latinos and things like that. And so when I was talking to students as part of my campaign or elections and things like that, what I realized is, I remember walking up to this girl and she told me that she felt like in regards to fraternities and sororities that there would be one specifically for that are more geared towards African Americans, because she felt that it's offensive that the school's sororities or the Greek system have so many, you know, they have one for Latinos, they have a lot with, you know, I guess white population, but she doesn't feel like there's one that is geared towards African Americans. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Greece, but that was the feedback that I got back from her, and she felt that was really offensive of the school to not have that, because I guess there was this sorority that wanted to come, but the school didn't let her. So I was explaining to her, like, well, there are different regulations. It's not so much about the race, but it's more about, what is it, national?
Greek life, for a long time, they capped the amount of numbers they could have, not the amount of Greeks, but the Greek organizations themselves, in order to focus on growth within them. So a lot of we had 4 sororities for a long time now. In order to make sure we can grow those 4 sororities so they're large enough. So a lot of them have, I don't want to say quotas, but they have large recruitment standards set by their national bodies. They're actually opening up expansion next year, so people are coming and actually be able to apply for new ones. And in the past, there have been a few other fraternities that have been here, and they've been taken away because of certain incidences that have happened, because hazing is something that happens in Greek life. But there was an African American interest group to create an African American fraternity. I think it was a TEAC, and it didn't really work out too well for them because at the time they had hazing concerns, I believe was their reason. They want to make sure that if they bring an organization on campus, they don't want any of that to happen. So they are opening up next year, though. Students are going to be able to create groups that will be approved by administration to be able to continue forward to become recognized one day if they choose to take that path. But there's already an incredible amount of diversity within each organization. I'm a member of Sigma Chi, and our newest pledge class, there was only like 2 or 3 white guys. More often, sometimes we're labeled a white fraternity, but my pledge brother was black. Another black member graduated last year. They exist. They're there. They don't want to be separated because of the race. They just want to be recognized as a member of the organization as a whole. And so SAE and Kappa Sig and OD5 all have incredible numbers when it comes to their racial diversity. OD5 is a Latino fraternity, but they actually have a white member who actually is really good with all of them and fits perfectly in their organization. So, yeah, we do have multicultural organizations that specifically focus a lot on the Latino culture, but it's not to say that there isn't diversity within them, because Sigma Chi and SA and Kappa Sigma, though they're not multicultural fraternities, are themselves multicultural in nature, because you have people of every race, many different religions, and many different socioeconomic backgrounds represented across the board. And of course, the richest from black to white to Asian to Mexican, or any type of Latino, it's all there.
Because I've noticed this with like Asian organizations and like Indian organizations, even though they have all these separations like Sikhs and Punjabis and stuff, they still come together and do like shows and all this, and that's why they have such large organizations. And when they throw events, they have so many people participating, so many people coming, and they have huge success. Whereas like if when BSU, ASU shows up, if it's just BSU people going to their event, then of course it's not going to be as much participation. Or if it's ASU just throwing an event and just they reach out to just Africans or whatever, then it's not as much participation as well. So if we come together and like make like a council or something, and like create like black leaders and stuff like that, then we can, like when ASU throws an event, we could all be together. When NESB does, we can all be together. Like, it would just be amazing to see. And then you'd see, everything growing as time goes on. Like, it just takes time, especially since we're so young. But that's how I see diversity here.
So what can we take away from all of this? UC Merced is quite the diverse place, but students here do notice a lack of representation from other races. The term diversity has developed into expecting more of an equal amount of each group. With respect to clubs and organizations and sororities, we believe that it's not very diverse culturally overall.